Oh, Thursday Night Football, Dave.
Nah.
Yeah. Colts at Broncos. Stat of the game. More than 1/3 of NFL teams have a nickname that starts with the letter B or letter C, including the Broncos and Colts. That's pretty weird. There's 12 out of 32 that are B's or C's. Stat of the game number 2. All 4 quarterbacks who have faced the Colts so far, Davis Mills, Trevor Lawrence, Patrick Mahomes, Ryan Tannehill, they've all scored 17 to 22 fantasy points in 6-point per passing touchdown leagues. 3 of them threw 2 touchdown passes, but still didn't score more than 22 points. And the Colts are not giving up a lot of big plays. They have allowed just 5 pass plays of 25-plus yards, 5th fewest in the NFL. Meanwhile, the Broncos have the second most pass plays of 20-plus yards and the second most pass plays of 25-plus yards. So it could come down to some big plays in this game. Can the Broncos make them? How do you feel about Russell Wilson, Dave Richard?
I think he's a start. I think he could end up passing. It'll be more than last week. It could be in the neighborhood of 33 times, something like that against Indianapolis. And it's not an easy matchup like you've talked about. But I do believe they're going to have a hard time running the football, especially with DeForest Buckner back for Indianapolis. And it's going to lead to opportunities. And I think the Colts know that, or the Broncos rather, know that they've got to get a third person involved. They've got to, obviously Sutton's going to get his targets, but he's going to see a lot of Stephon Gilmore. That's a tough matchup for Sutton. I'm still starting Sutton, but I wouldn't have the same expectations as what he's done lately. Judy's going to get the slot. I like that matchup for Judy. I think he can be okay there, but it is a Colts defense that doesn't allow big plays. Judy's kind of lived and feasted on the big play this year. So Russ is going to need to find that third person, and he's going to need to keep up this running. I think he does both of those things, and that makes him a low-end starter for me this week.
All right, Heath, would you start Russell Wilson or anyone on the waiver wire?
Russell Wilson over everyone on the waiver wire. The only guy who you might have on your roster with Russell Wilson that I would start over him would be Kirk Cousins, but it's close enough that I wouldn't make a strong argument. I think there's significant downside for Wilson, but there's not any quarterbacks that are available on the waiver wire that I want to start over him.
Right.
If the Colts can take away the big plays, I don't believe that this Broncos offense is going to have a bunch of 8 to 10 play drives where they march down the field and score touchdowns.
Yeah. Okay, we're going to sit Matt Ryan. He's outside the top 20 for everybody, and we'll go to the running backs now. And this is the big question mark here. If Jonathan Taylor plays, do you hesitate at all to start him? The Broncos' run defense has been awful, but they don't see a lot of carries against them. They are a very slow-paced team. They don't see a lot of plays run against them.
You can't sit Jonathan Taylor. I don't think he's going to set the AFC record for most rushing yards in a game. But if he does, I'm sure we'll get live cut-ins in all the other games that are happening across different sports.
Expert troll. You're one of the best. You're really one of the best trolls. Very good.
But you're not sitting Jonathan Taylor.
All right. It just, if there were ever a time to sit Jonathan Taylor, it would be on a short week with an injury where he hasn't really been playing well, but
right.
At least the matchup's good. But okay, start Taylor. What if he doesn't play? Where would you rank Nyheim Hines? And Dave, would you be interested in any other Colts running back if Taylor's out?
Definitely uninterested in any other Colts running back. I would be barely interested in Hines in non-PPR leagues, but in half and full PPR leagues, I could see him being more involved there through the air. And that gives him a decent floor of maybe 10, 12 PPR points. So it's really coming down to that. Like full PPR, maybe even a low-end starter, just because I figure that he's going to pick up a lot of work through the passing game if there is no Jonathan Taylor. And the Colts will learn pretty quickly that Phillip Lindsay, Deion Jackson, and Hines himself won't be able to run effectively against Denver.
Well, everyone's running effectively against Denver.
Yeah, but the Colts aren't running effectively against anybody.
Yeah, it's true. All right, so then let's say Jonathan Taylor's out. Would you start Nyheim Hines or Melvin Gordon?
I had Hines higher in PPR, but now with the news that Latavius Murray's unlikely to be ready and the little offensive coordinator quote about obviously Melvin Gordon's going to lead the way, it's definitely Gordon in non-PPR over Hines. In full PPR, I'm going to go Gordon as well. They're both borderline number 2 running backs. Low-end options, but you're probably starting both.
They're both flexes. I think that's the best way to put it, and I would start Melvin ahead of Hines.
Would you guys
They're back-to-back for me in PPR.
J.K. Dobbins against the Bengals or
Dobbins, yes.
Melvin Gordon?
I'd start both of these backs over Dobbins.
I'd do the opposite.
Devin Singletary against Pittsburgh or Melvin Gordon?
Singletary.
Definitely Singletary.
How about James Conner against the Eagles?
Still Conner.
Both backs on Thursday night.
Oh, okay. All right. And how about Thursday night? And okay, so obviously when he says both backs on Thursday night, he is talking about Nyheim Hines in the event that Jonathan Taylor does not play. You're probably not gonna start Hines if
the
Taylor
starting
does.
running back for both teams.
Sure. But obviously Taylor would be ranked much higher than Hines
Yes.
if Taylor plays.
Oh, yeah. Duh.
Now, wide receivers here. Everyone's going to start Cortland Sutton, I'm sure. What about Judy and Pittman? And I think you do have to wonder if Pittman's going to get shadowed by Patrick Surtain, who has been a shadower this year. And he did give up a lot of yards to Devontae Adams last week. Did a great job on DK Metcalf. But anyway, with Judy and Pittman, Heath, do you like them?
I am starting Pittman as a number 2 wide receiver. A little bit nervous. Like him better in PPR than in non, but I expect the volume to bounce back. So ahead of, for me, the Seahawks, ahead of Deontay Johnson, ahead of Josh Reynolds, those kind of guys. Judy, I'm a little bit more nervous about just because he has been so big play dependent. He's more in the Gabe Davis range for me of low end boom bust number 3 wide receiver.
I agree with that on Judy. The one thing that I do like about Judy is that when he does play against cover 3 defenses, and that's what the Colts specialize in, it's the Gus Bradley way. He's got an 88% catch rate, and he's averaging 14.2 yards per catch.
Interesting.
That's this year or over
This
a
year.
period? This year?
This year.
Okay. I wonder how many plays that is.
It's a lot, actually. I can give you the exact number if you want.
Okay, and on the other side of the ball, mentioned Pierce. Pittman is just like probably a little lower than you'd expect. Although for Dave, Pittman is 10th in full PPR, 17th.
Yeah, I'm not getting away from him.
All right, Denver allows the fewest fantasy points to wide receivers. I don't know if it's a shadow situation or not, but
It probably will be, but it's also, if there's no Jonathan Taylor, I mean, what are the Colts going to do? Of course they're going to throw the ball. They're going to find ways to
But
get
they
the
threw.
ball.
How many times did they throw it last week?
That's a fair point.
they threw.
How'd they do? Did they win that game?
37 times last week.
I'm sure it's going to be a focal point to try and get Pittman involved. I don't know. In PPR, it's easier to start him. There's certainly a chance that he's inefficient against Surtain.
2 more questions. Any interest in a tight end in this game?
There are a lot of tight ends that I want to stash this week. Okwuegbunam would be at the bottom of that list, but I don't mind him in a single game DFS.
And how about the DST?
We might as well, hold on. I'm sorry, Adam. We might as well say the exact same thing about Mo Alley Cox.
Okay.
Like, if you want to stash him for a week, it's fine. If you want to use him in DFS, that's cool too. Once again, if the Colts don't have Jonathan Taylor, what do you expect them to do? Mo Alley Cox is like a slower
Not
Gronk.
score.
Yeah, I mean,
but they're going to complete passes.
this is what you do against the Broncos. You run the ball, and they're going to struggle if they have to pass. But yeah, you're right. I mean, they're going to have to throw. They're going to throw somebody.
Yeah, I mean, Alley Cox could end up being 5 for 50. So I like him better than Okwuegbunam if I have to stash one of these tight ends.
No, you don't. I promise you don't have to stash.
I know I don't have to.
No.
Denver DST, just start them. All right, and that's it for Thursday Night Football.
No.
Ah,